probably more indications of contact with the supernatural, the so-called other side, than we are aware of. It's not just my religious faith or my reason. I mean, my reason tells me, by the by, that never in the course of human history has nature, if we want to call God nature, imbued man or even animal with a desire for something which is unattainable. I mean, if there is thirst, you know there's water somewhere. There's hunger, there's food.
I need to understand what I'm doing here. And that becomes, for me, the rich material that one can mine in terms of storytelling. And I think in order to do that, you have to be willing to go beyond the physical. Therefore, the metaphysical starts to play into it. What is it that life is in? What is the containment? What is it that we are surrounded by? And the only way you can begin to even discuss that really spiritually is what precedes life and what follows it, which is, again, how a movie like Ghost emerges. When the lights go out and they say, cut on your life, in Ghost, he's still going. Sam is still running after the man who killed him. His body's on the ground, but he doesn't know that. He's still going. It's an extraordinary moment. He's going to try to find his killer, and then he comes back to discover that his girlfriend is holding his dead body in her arms. He looks down at her, and that is his moment of revelation, that all of the idea of blackout, finality that he had expected at the end of life isn't there. He is now in another world. He's on the other side. And as he goes to the other side, we as an audience go to the other side. And at that point, for everyone in the audience who was expecting the blackout he was expecting, all bets are off.
I suspect Jung, the psychiatrist, had the right of it. He didn't think that the afterlife was someplace beyond this material universe, but that in fact the two coexisted and they interpenetrated one another. But the one was at a different frequency than our sphere of existence. You know, like the blades of a propeller or a fan. You can't see it, but it's actually there. And so when you consider the idea of interpenetration, ghost stories become so much more credible. And so they're universal, you know, from the beginning of recorded history. There's always a ghost story somewhere.
Was that a chicken's head outside in that tree?
Yes. It's put up there when somebody sees a ghost.
It's a big obsession of mine, ghosts and the afterlife. You know, it's not a coincidence. I think it's absolutely, you know, directly related that the Indian culture, it's an accepted thing, that the belief in spirits. It's not ghosts like white sheets coming and haunting with rattling chains, but more people that have passed on that are still around to give you advice or to watch over you. That's an accepted thing in the culture, you know, that people see loved ones in their homes after they've passed on, or if they feel like there's a negative spirit around, that they do rituals. You know, there are specific things. When you buy a new house, there's a ritual that you do, that we do, and that most everybody does, Indians do, to ward off the spirits. It's just an accepted part of the culture, and that kind of acceptance of it, I think, went directly to my non-skepticism of it.
She says the spirits appeared because of you. She says you have a clean soul. The spirits like you.
I always loved ghost stories. And I think most people do like them because, unlike many of the teachings we have about our lives, they do talk about that which transcends and goes beyond our normal lives. And in most cases, ghost stories are fantasy films. They're thematic. They're movies that present an idea of what if. And I always found those very frustrating. I thought a movie that took itself too lightly about ghosts was very unsatisfying. I always wanted to see a movie where ghosts were real, where the world that they have existed in was established and real and accepted by the filmmaker, and not something that they kind of winked at the end of the movie. But I know when I did Ghost, I wanted to tell the ghost story from the side of the ghost. What is his experience? What is that world for him? And I knew that other people wanted to make that journey as well, that we often see ghost story from the side of the people who are terrified of the ghosts. I just felt this is worth exploring. This is a tale worth telling. And I think half of the pleasure of that movie and half of the pleasure of The Sixth Sense is that it's not about proving that they exist, it's just accepting.
I don't see anything. Are you sure they're there? Cole.
Please make them leave.
I'm working on it.
Once I started researching people that have written about their experiences or people that claim to speak to spirits and things like that, it's very intriguing. One of the things that was really interesting in the research was that the families that claim that their child can see ghosts and speak to spirits, they're all from broken homes. Every single one of them, all around the world, every single one of them. The common denominator is that their families, a divorce or separation had happened. Not a death. It was never a death. It was always a separation or a divorce with the couple. And the child then that's left, a 9-year-old, 8-year-old, 6-year-old, 4-year-old, whatever it is, starts having these visions or starts talking to themselves in the corner and starts seemingly to turn and look at someone else and have knowledge that they couldn't have. And the naysayers, all the people like my brother-in-law who would say, you know, this is ridiculous.
Suffering from visual hallucinations, paranoia, some kind of school-age schizophrenia.
Those people are saying, well, it's a family who's a broken family, the kid's going through a lot, and he's crying for attention. So he does all this stuff, and he gets attention, and that helps him with his suffering of this. And the people that believe in, you know, the spirits and things like that, they say, well, these individuals, these children, had this gift, and that when hit with a very intense, painful situation in their lives, it kind of, almost like a puberty, it opened it up, this gift, and allowed them to resonate on that level, that emotional level that would start attracting spirits.
It is a fact that up until the age of, I think the uppermost limit is 11, though usually it happens at an age earlier than that, children do not recognize the concept of death as a permanent departure. It's always, he's gone away for a while, he's on vacation. It's always temporary. And it's not until around that age, 11 is the top limit, where they suddenly know, holy smokes, he's dead and buried and in the ground, and he's not coming back. And which harks back to intimations of immortality from earliest recollections of childhood. I mean, at the very earliest age, you're still in touch with that reality.
Jeremy, you were gone. Couldn't find you.
I'm not going anywhere.
Promise.
Promise.
He lied.
I think that when little kids are born, they're completely cognizant of where they've come from. I think that there was some form of consciousness before they got here, and I think that when they land here, they're completely cognizant of it. And because they need to learn to stand up and, you know, poop in the toilet rather than in their pants and, you know, not stick their fingers in the wall sockets, we keep inundating them with the rules of how to be a person, how to be alive on this three-dimensional plane where gravity and time matter.
Now you stand like perfect gentlemen. Fold your hands. Eyes forward, back straight, and enjoy yourselves.
It makes those little children forget where they come from. You know? So we are the result of those little children. We've forgotten, but not completely. We know there's something else out there that we've lost contact with.
I have never seen a ghost, but I have 2 children who have, and an entire British camera and sound crew who have. The most touching and endearing for me involved my son, Paulie. When Paul was about 18 months old, he was nursing in an upper room in a home we lived in Santa Barbara. Now, breaking Paul away from his nurner, as he called it, which was nursing, is like breaking W.C. Fields away from a bottle of gin. I mean, it just couldn't be done. Lo and behold, I come up to that room for good nights and prayers, and my wife tells me the most incredible story. She said, you know what just happened? Paulie broke away from his nursing, already a miracle of some kind, and turned and looked over to the corner of the room. And then he pointed. And I said, Paulie, what do you see? Do you see something? Ghost. Ghost. So now I wanted to continue interrogating this infant. When he was back in his crib, I said, Paulie, you saw someone? Was it a man? Was it a lady? Paulie, what was it? He said, happy. Just the one word, happy. And I immediately summoned up in my imagination a vision of Paulie's guardian angel sitting over in the corner of the chair.
I think that there's something going on. Unfortunately, I don't see anything that would be kind of cool, but haven't seen any lately. But I had a little baby, and when she was like 6 months old, you know, wake up in the middle of the night and you feed her, and not that I did it very often, my wife did it most of the time, but on the rare occasions I did, I would sit there in the middle of the night and I'd feed her, and then one night she kind of like looked over my shoulder and just started laughing, like she was looking at somebody. And I've seen that look when she does it to a human being, she does it to somebody, and I was like, you know, who are you? And she was as riveted, like someone was talking to her. And it was very eerie because I was writing the script at the time, and lots of things like that happened.
There's the old biblical dictum to become like a child again, to rediscover one's innocence, to rediscover one's simplicity and purity. And it's hard for most adults to understand. We're so verbal, we're so logical, we're so rational. We see the world in very concrete terms. And a child doesn't do that. A child, you have to understand, for a good year of its life is pre-verbal. So a picture isn't called a picture, and a dog isn't called a dog, and a wall isn't a wall. They're just forms. They are these pure forms, and they are forms that delight and terrify. They're forms that have some kind of function. These forms that start to have repetitive nature, patterns, they reoccur, but that you have no way of grasping them, understanding them, putting them into any kind of context. They just are. That purity of being is something we lose as we grow up, and that we are desperate to rediscover.
At the beginning of movies, not just horror movies, but almost all movies, at the beginning of movies, most storytellers start with an ordinary world. And the reason they start with an ordinary world is we're going to go to an extraordinary place. And it only seems extraordinary once we've seen the ordinary. So the ordinary world in The Sixth Sense is, you know, the world where psychiatrists take care of kids and kids get beaten up by older kids in school, and, you know, moms fret and get divorced and so on and so forth. The larger world deals with the people who have been with us alive and who are no longer alive now are still with us.
I think I'm okay, really. I think it just went in and out. It doesn't even hurt anymore.
If anyone has ever been in the presence of a dying person during that final moment of their life, you know you're on holy ground. You know you're not alone in that room. There are forces that are at play, and you cannot help but be responsive to that, to be honoring of that, and it is a religious experience. It's a spiritual experience, just being with someone when they depart. And it changes you, it opens you, and in that incredible vulnerability that you experience, because it is such a mystery, and it's so powerful, and it's so final, you are so available at that moment to yourself, to your deepest understanding of things, to the clarity of the universe, that what needs to come through really comes through at that moment.
One of the last things I remember about my grandpa was the way he stood at the finish line, waiting to say goodbye.
With the passing of my mother, I went into a deep and possibly very unhealthy grief. I wouldn't let go of the grief. I wouldn't let go of it. So having nothing better to do, I said, maybe I'll try that novel I've been thinking about for so long. And I rented a tiny cabin in Lake Tahoe. In the midst of that period, that interlude, I went down to the hotel where they had saunas. And I went in to take a sauna one day and came home, did some work, went to bed, awakened the next morning. Now, around my neck is my mother's medal. When she died, the man at the funeral parlor said, she has these medals. Do you want them? I said, I'll take this one. And I left her with a copper medal, and it was covered with a green soap scum, you know. So I finished my sauna, came home, awakened the next morning, and as I would bend over the sink to brush my teeth, I'd hear clink. Bend over again, I'd hear clink. I don't know how 2 or 3 times this repeated until I looked in the mirror and through the open fold of my pajama top, I saw I was wearing 2 medals. And the one looked identical to the one that I had left on my mother. And when I tried to take it off, I had a great deal of difficulty because the chain was so narrow. And I went immediately back to the sauna. I said, is anyone looking for a lost religious medal? No. And for days, I would call there. Has anyone come in? I gave them my phone number. Call me. Someone comes in looking. No one came in looking for it.
I really need a sign to know whether to keep going or not.
It's a message, isn't it? Don't be in such intense pain. It's all right. I'm here. I survive. I exist. I have not submitted to total extinction. Cheer up.
Ghosts come in to bring you knowledge, and they give you knowledge that you can act on or not act on, but it's harder to not act on knowledge when it's brought from the other side. When somebody comes to you and says something to you in real life, and you go, okay, but when a ghost comes to you, your attention is caught. This is not a normal message. Something has defied the laws of gravity and time and space and everything else we know to bring you this message. Now you have to pay attention. So the calling that's sent to someone from the other side has great weight, has great power, and people are set off into huge journeys as a result of these messages. But often it's just a guidepost. These are beings trying to steer you in the right direction. They are trying to help you know something that you wouldn't have known through your normal human knowledge. They, through their knowledge, can know something, and they can try to guide you to something that will save someone, that will help someone, that will do what is right.
What do you think they want?
Just help.
That's right. That's what I think, too. They just want help, even the scary ones. And I think I might know a way to make them go away.
How?
Listen to them.
Of course, what goes on the other side is so strange. My suspicion is that what we experience as ghost stories, the supernatural, interpenetration into this world, we're just touching one stage of that journey. I don't think that's it. I don't think heaven or hell are in the immediate hereafter. I'd liken it more to the waiting room at a train station where you're sorting out what train you're going to take next. Maybe it's a train back to where you started. Who knows?
The hint I get from Sixth Sense and Ghost is that there's unfinished business, and until that unfinished business is resolved, you can't go to the next level, whatever that level is. You know, Catholics would believe heaven, hell. People who are more spiritually involved may believe in a thing called the death bardo, which is you've got to go and deal with these issues before you're ready to move on. Catholics would call that purgatory, where you haven't committed a mortal sin, so your soul is redeemable, so you're not going to be submitted directly to hell where you'll be in eternal torment. But you go through this waiting room period in which perhaps you meditate on your life and recognize the failures in your life, and you've got to go back and resolve them. And that's the big secret, certainly in Bruce Willis's character. His dealing with the kid is not just an effort to get himself back in good standing to himself as a psychiatrist, but it's an effort to get back and balance out some things that were in imbalance in his life.
I think I can go now. Just needed to do a couple things. And I needed to tell you something. You were never second.
There should be a really strong motivation for the main character, and Malcolm in Sixth Sense, you know, the feeling of redemption for past mistakes is a strong motivation to follow the clues, to figure this out, and to hold on to this investigation longer than we would, rather than just saying a character is going deep into an investigation because he has to know the truth. That's not strong enough because the real world comes in and muddies everything. So a motivation that we can relate to like that is a real accessible thing.
You sleep now. Everything will be different in the morning.
In most films, when someone dies, there's this kind of grief that they have entered the darkness, that they have entered the end of things and the end of them. But in movies like Sixth Sense or Ghost or Jacob or The Exorcist, when the hero dies, you know they're not dead.
Looks kind of peaceful, the guy. Put up a hell of a fight, though.
You know they have gone into this larger realm. You've been in a movie that has exposed you to that realm. So when they go into it, you don't suffer their loss. You, in a sense, experience the majesty of that powerful transformation. You don't know where they've gone exactly, but you know they've gone somewhere. And rather than it being fearful, it's awesome.
Sixth Sense is going to tell you this story about a damaged little boy and the damaged psychiatrist who's going to heal himself by healing the little boy. And we know it's a horror movie. We paid our $10 and we're going to see a horror movie. We know that. So that what's happening is that our conscious mind is aware that we're watching a horror movie and we're aware that we're watching this familiar little story. So we're completely focused on that, and that's fine. And the rest of our mind can go dream. We can go unplug. In meditation, what happens is that by breathing, by being aware of your breathing and by taking certain postures, what you're doing is you're unplugging from your physical being so that you're not dealing with that, so that your consciousness can unplug from being stuck in this awkward machine, which needs to eat or go to the bathroom or need a cigar or need love or any of this other stuff, and just can communicate, can be receptive to the messages rather than just playing the tapes in your head over and over again. You know, be a good boy, don't crossing the green, not in between, all that sort of stuff. That what happens is that you can listen to or make yourself receptive to what those other voices might be saying. I don't know where those other voices come from. They're God, they're angels, they're yourself. I don't know what they are, but they're there. Good storytellers know this, and that is that you got to give the conscious mind enough so it's distracted and it feels like it's being entertained or connected or amused, so that the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind, can kind of run free and unfettered. And M. Night is going to use that real simple model to take you to a place that you haven't thought of before.
Have you ever done any free association writing, Cole?
Yes.
What did you write?
Upset words.
A lot of movies are about life and things in life and about nature and about drama and about the struggle of human experience, but some films just point at what I would call the core spiritual element.
If you could change something in your life, anything at all, what would it be?
Instead of something I want, can it be something I don't want?
Okay.
I don't want to be scared anymore.
There aren't many of them, but when they come, a film like The Exorcist or Sixth Sense or Ghost or Jacob's Ladder, these are films that they're not beating about the bush. They're going right toward this thing. And the audience doesn't necessarily know that. they're going in for story. They're going in to be moved emotionally, to have an experience, but the experience is centered around a metaphysical reality. And when that starts to happen, something fills the space in which these people are sitting. They are still congregated in this theater, in this communal space, but they are now participating in something of a higher level. They are reaching towards something greater, something bigger, and they are doing it as a group. And they are part of this expanded consciousness, if you will, that is reaching out of normal physical space into a kind of metaphysical space. And they are doing it together. And when they do that, they are experiencing something that they don't get very often in their normal daily life.
What is the material universe, really? Well, certainly, what is this life? If not, in my opinion, a testing ground in which we have to work out certain problems that have to do with the evolution of our spirituality. And that involves suffering. I think it has to involve suffering, because can you imagine developing virtues such as kindness, loyalty, generosity, courage, unless there was suffering? Let me turn it another way. Assume for a moment that you come into a world that you know, in which you know there can never be the slightest physical suffering to either you or any other living being. That's the world you're born into. Could you ever be courageous? Could you ever be honest? Could you ever be loyal? It's just not possible. So this is the way the universe has to be in order for man at his highest level to evolve.
Fairy tales are a way of teaching us this journey. They're a way of teaching us the pursuit of this deeper world. Fairy tales show us the world and a path through it. They show us the evil of the world, the darkness of the world, but they always show us a path back to goodness. They always show us a path back to home and hearth and serenity. They take the child and they say, yes, the world is going to be this frightening place and a wondrous place, and all these things are going to go on in the world, but in the end, you go back to grandma, you go back to your father, you go back to your mother, you discover the prince, you discover that which carries you beyond, because you have been willing to live the path, to go through it, to understand the drama of it, and yet not be caught by the drama of it.
M. Night has questions about the matters with which he deals. He's asking real questions that he has in his own life, and he's putting that on film, trusting that the real questions he has about his life will correspond to real questions that the audience has about its life. Not very many people are doing that.
It's funny when you first get an idea. Sometimes it comes when you look at something you've looked at 100 million times.
You can't just sit down and write a spiritually based movie. You can't just enter the genre because you want to be in the genre. People have tried and looked ridiculous. You have to live it. You have to have it come from a place in you that is central to your own life. And when it's central to your life, it guides you. You can't find your way there intellectually. You can't find your way there by aping other people's films. You have to find something that is purely, truly coming from within you. And if you find it, then you have to work toward it. You have to live with it. You have to fight to get it right. You have to mold time and space to take this precious understanding and make it palatable to a large audience.
Sam?
Molly?
I can hear you.
The most magnificent expression of that reaffirmation of the truths of the blood and of our hopes for eternal life, I have never seen more powerfully and movingly expressed than in that last scene at the end of The Sixth Sense.
She said you came to the place where they buried her. Asked her a question. She said the answer is every day.
it dawns upon her, he has seen ghosts, that it's true. Absolutely magnificent.
It just so happens that somebody very close to me is probably possessed and needs an exorcism. Father Karras is my little girl.
There was a whole notion at the end of the 60s of, is God dead? You know, let's reject God because he doesn't exist anymore. And The Exorcist went against the grain. Said, you think God's dead? Okay, I'm going to show you the devil. And that'll give you an idea of whether God's dead. Horror films, aside from slasher movies, are very much out of favor. We're living in good times. We're not in a depression. We're not in a war. All the things that would ordinarily make horror films go don't exist. There isn't the nuclear threat that there used to be. So why does this horror film work all of a sudden? Because it speaks to an unspoken, nervous anxiety that we've all got and no one is talking about.
You failed me. You failed me! Vincent, I'm sorry if I didn't help you. But if you just let me try, you just give me a chance.
The power of Christ! The power of Christ compels you!
I also reminded some Roman Catholics that maybe he was real, and maybe there is a certain amount of suffering that may be incurred by our behavior in this world. I know that because at one point I was the public relations director for a Jesuit university in Los Angeles, Loyola University. It was not Loyola Marymount yet at that time. And so I had an acquaintance and friendship with many of the priests there. And a couple of them told me that in the wake of I don't remember now whether it was in the wake of the novel or the wake of the film, they said there had never been such a thundering run on the confessional box in their entire career. And I had to attribute that to fear.
Somewhere along the way, you hope that someone will come to you and go, wake up. This is not real. This is a journey of your mind. You are the dreamer. You are not the dream. And you wait for that moment. And in every lifetime, it comes. But do you hear it? It's flashing by you all the time. Do you even look? Do you listen? Do you wait for a message? There's biblical references. There's Buddhist references. There's so many things being told to us all the time that just say, wake up. You can do it. And our best storytellers are doing the exact same thing. And do we hear them? Maybe. Not a lot of people do. But I think when you start to hear it, you start to try to live your life accordingly. You start to try to change and to become somebody who is more open to the larger truths of this world.
How long are we supposed to do this? A long time.
It's tough to be awake. It's the reason why a lot of people don't want to meditate. I mean, I have to sit here and do nothing? That's unthinkable. And if you don't, all those messages, your email package is just filling up. They're just going to come and pile up, and unless you process them sooner or later, you got to get sick. I mean, eventually what's going to happen is your subconscious or your unconscious mind is just going to lay you out. It's going to give you a nervous breakdown. It's going to cause you terror. It's going to cause you something. It's like, okay, your body is not going to slow down. It's not going to stop eating junk food. All right, we're going to make you so sick that you're just going to have to lie here at death's door and process the messages. And I think what M. Night's tapping into, and I think this is the reason why it's so popular, is that he's affording you the possibility of processing some of those messages.
I believe that these films express a truth of the blood, something that requires no evidence. You know it. You have known it as long as mankind has known it. It's archetypal. And films of the type of The Exorcist, The Sixth Sense, and on, are reaffirming a truth of the blood, which is very, very simple. We are immortal. We are basically spiritual beings, moving around in this monkey suit we're wearing for the purposes of evolving our souls. Certainly not to have a good time. That's not the universal experience of mankind at all. It's mostly suffering. And it expresses it, and it expresses, therefore, tremendous hope.
Hey!
who wants to believe that this is a tale told by an idiot? And it ends in dust. Your dust in your coffin, in your grave. It's not a very happy story. And it looks that way to many of us, to maybe all of us at one point or another in our lives, in some moment of exquisite, inexplicable suffering. But the truth is in our blood. We live forever. And your fairy tales, grim, even gentle, romantic ghost stories like The Ghost of Mrs. Muir, what are they all about? What is it that we like about them when they're well done? Oh, it's true. We're going to see my loved ones again.